cyberpunks and retro nerds, it's Tommy the Hammer. I gotta be straight with you guys. I've been very apprehensive about doing this movie review since pretty much the middle of the summer. When it comes down to the Dark Tower, Roland, and, the Gunslinger books in general, well, they all hold a special place to my heart. They're very near and dear to me. And I'm a huge Stephen King fan. I've been reading his books for years, and I like everything from his early career all the way up to his current work. So I'm no fly-by-night Stephen King fan. And a couple of years ago, when rumors were circulating Hollywood that they were actually in, the works for making a live-action Gunslinger movie, well, I about shit my pants. It's one of my favorite book series of all time. And with the prospects of Ron Howard directing it, which was the rumor a couple of years ago, well, then I knew we were about to get a really good interpretation of one of my favorite stories. Well, fast forward to the summer, and we all got that shitty Dark Tower trailer, and for a lot of fans of the books, myself included, our hearts sank a little bit. Well, today's the day that I actually got to watch it myself. I did a rarity. I went to the local video store and rented a Blu-ray copy of the movie. I just didn't have it in my hearts to purchase this thing. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and get it over with, pop this fucker straight into my PS3. You guys are going to be checking out the lackluster trailer, and then when that's done, we're going to be discussing the Dark Tower a little bit.
Tower is all that stands between light and darkness. For thousands of generations, the gunslingers were knights, sworn to protect it. Now I'm the only one left.
The tower will fall. Get used to the carnage.
Now the wars come to Earth.
You really think you can stop me, Gunslinger? Come on! Everyone who walks with you dies.
No more. I do not shoot with my hand. I shoot with my mind. I do not kill with my gun. I kill with my heart.
Wow, guys. I am just speechless. This is a bad movie. Where to begin? As I was watching the film, it kind of dawned on me what the producers and the movie executives were going for with this version of the Dark Tower. It's as if someone did a cursory look at all of the books, all of the lore that Stephen King has created with his Dark Tower and Gunslinger universe, and cherry-picked certain elements from some of the early books and some elements from the later books as well, and applied them all into one movie and designed and orchestrated the entire thing to be more appealing for a modern-day, younger audience. And in the wake of things like Harry Potter and Lemony Snicket's and the Divergent series and the plethora, Hunger Games, things like that, the plethora of, young adult teen novels, I feel like that's what they were aiming this movie towards, is that audience. And having the central focus of the movie, being based on Jake's character, really throws everything off kilt, in my opinion. And right off the bat, the movie gets everything wrong, from the opening scene to the closing credits. The characterizations of everybody was just way off. The settings were completely misused. and, everything about the movie is just kind of dull. It just falls flat, guys. And as, pretty much a guy that has, read the entire series, since I was a young adult myself, this is kind of a slap in the face. I mean, how dare those movie producers, movie executives, all those big wigs at the studio, how dare they just take, decades worth of mythology and lore and just pump out this slapdash, messy incarnation of Roland and the Gunslinger universe in general. One thing I do want to really, express in this review here is that, yeah, there's going to be people that watch, my opinion in this video, and they're probably going to say to themselves, oh, Tom, this is a movie version. Of course things aren't going to be as good as the novels. They got to take certain liberties, blah, fucking blah. Well, you know what, guys? I don't mind when, a director or a producer or a film studio takes a little bit of liberties, with the literary work. It wasn't a problem for me with the Harry Potter movies, and I read all of those books. And, when it comes down to things like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, everyone was always bitching about how Peter Jackson added elements, into the Hobbit series. Well, I feel like that's not an apt comparison because, with the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings series, at least the basic skeletal structure of the Tolkien books is still there. Yeah, Peter Jackson added his own sheen to it, added certain, extra elements, to the movies, but it wasn't a slap in the face to the fans. It wasn't, a disservice to the actual source material. This movie is just bad, guys. And there is no skeletal structure of Roland, the Gunslinger, or the Dark Tower. This is just some vapid excuse, for a movie company to just pump out some test film like this to see if there's an audience, and if it's successful at, the theaters, then they'll go ahead with part 2. But, I'm willing to bet that since audiences weren't having it, then they're just going to scrap this. And the rumor is, online, at least from what I've read, that the movie did so bad at the box office, everyone involved is thinking of starting over again and doing the Gunslinger right with, like, a television miniseries. And in my opinion, that's what they should have done, from the fucking get-go. As a fan of cinema, guys, I tried to pull myself back away from, the books and the mythology and the lore and everything that, transverses, the Gunslinger and the Dark Tower stories into every other literary work from Stephen King. I tried to watch this as just, a random moviegoer. And, okay, the one thing I could say about this movie that it gets right is, I guess, some of the geographical locations for, the Gunslinger's territories. The desert looked good, the woods looked good, and, the world that has moved on, it looked serviceable. So I feel like, the visual sense of the movie and the overall scope was pretty good. But with that being said, guys, there's also elements to the visual sense that feel cheap and shoddy and low budget, and there's moments where I felt like it looked like one of those shitty sci-fi original movies. So, I realize I don't have a lot of good to say about this film, and I knew that going into it. I gave it a chance, guys. I really did. I really tried to watch it, from an outside perspective, and I couldn't do it. It's bad. Out of 10 stars, I gotta award this movie 3 out of 10, and the only reason it gets 3 stars out of 10 is for Matthew McConaughey, Idris Elba, and, like I said, the geographical locations. those are the only elements I can award stars for in this movie.